You want to get a hard pill to swallow that you're only going to get from me? Like, very few people are actually willing to discuss this because they're ashamed. But I'll tell you something that is absolutely true. Tits sell. If you're in the video gaming business and your video game is mostly played by teenage boys, you give those kids a pair of titties and they're going to buy shit from you. It's the way where the world works. Now, you may argue that it's immoral, that you wish the world would work differently, or you can deny reality. But the truth is, titties sell. Gabe Newell understands this, which is why he said, let them have their porn. Riot Games used to understand this until they went into full social justice mode. Like, they have pages about diversity and about Pride Month and about the LGBT and other issues, and then they do business with China. I mean, they are absolute hypocrites. And they went on and apologized when they gave a female character some cleavage, which, let's be honest, is not something that you wouldn't find if you were to go on Twitch or at a nightclub. I mean, the okay boomer girl that a lot of progressives were applauding, if you were to make a character based by her in League of Legends, the social justice community would freak out. But that's the world we live in, you know. It's the reality. I mean, basically, women fine, but virtual depictions of women not fine. So I was a little bit put off by the card game that League of Legends has released. Now, back in my day, when I used to play card games, I liked the fact that the art was very appealing. It was pleasant to behold on the retina. It was something that I liked to look at. Obviously, I wouldn't just whoop my dick and spank it at a card. No, but if the lady looks pleasant, I enjoy playing it with that. You know, it's like why some women, I guess, like to watch football players. It's not that they start taking their pants down and masturbating. It's just that they like looking at beautiful people. It's a lot better than looking at ugly people, I'll give you that. But nowadays, the card game for League of Legends seems to be completely censored. And I was like, alright, I'm not playing this Tumblr bullshit. The characters look very different than the ones that appear in the game. They make sure to remove most of the sexual appeal from it. And I was like, yeah, you know, maybe on someone else's money, not mine. And then I find out that I was playing the uncensored version, and they have an even more censored version for China. Which, again, for a progressive company that's like LGBT this, LGBT that, yeah, no. They're going to do business with China. Take a character like Nico, which is gay. The Chinese Communist Party is going to straighten her out. She's straight in China. Same with a lot of Blizzard characters. I find this to be incredibly pandering, very despicable, especially since no social justice activist within or outside the company even wants to address this. But you know how it goes. Diversity quotas for the West and no diversity officers in China. I'm not even kidding. Like, you can look it into Blizzard, for example. Like, Blizzard has diversity quotas when it comes for the people they hire in the West, and zero diversity quotas when it comes for the people that they hire in China. It's just, but it makes sense. Like, why lecture a country that you know won't change? Diversity seems to be a parasitic ideology, like people just milking money out of tech companies. If you look at how much a diversity officer even makes a month, you will not believe. Meanwhile, the heart and soul of the company, the developer, those are replaceable. We can spit on them, make them work 12 hours. Do you think a diversity officer works 12 hours, by the way? Like, what do? They send one email every now and then and organize a corporate retreat or something. But, that's not neither here nor there. Let's look a little bit at the cards, so that we may compare the censored version with the uncensored one. We got Draven here. I assume this is one of his lady fans. And the censored version completely removes the woman. There is absolutely no more. You know what? This is social justice friendly, isn't it? It's funny how the social justice activists have literally the same morality as the people in Qatar and the people of communist China. I mean, this is some Qatarian bullshit that they pull here. Wasn't there like Saudi Arabia that also did the same in some adverts? Like they completely removed the woman in order to make the haram advert halal. This one is a little bit confusing. You will notice this a lot. Like some of the censorship has just at least doesn't make sense to me. I'm pretty sure like some ideologue in China could explain. But you have like this magical lady. I can't recognize her who she's supposed to be. And you have this character looks a little bit like Syndra, I guess, from waist down. Probably not Syndra though. And she's walking in. And in the censored version, they completely removed the lady walking in, and they changed a little bit of the lighting for some weird reason. Now, Katarina is going to get the nerf stick as well. You know, like this looks badass. Like she's got like this tattoo, and she's walking in like she doesn't give a fuck. It's not, you know, even sexually arousing, I would say, because you don't get to see any cleavage, you don't get to see anything. It's, you know, this looks very similar to, I guess, like the Warhammer witches, you know, the Dark Elf witch. And they go into combat in order to get the blood of their enemy being splashed on them. This is really cool. It makes her look badass, but apparently badassery is not allowed. She has to cover those tits up. Alright, the Chinese Communist Party does not appreciate her clothing. Now, we got to see Jinx, which obviously she requires a little bit of slut shaming from the Communist Party. She is definitely showing way too much, so they have to cover her up. I guess there's a lot of cold coming from the explosion, so she needs to put some clothes on. But don't think the men are going to get away from this. This one is really interesting, actually. This one is really interesting. Now, this entire one is, you know, Thresh. He's a main character in the game. And they just removed Thresh. Now, I do know that the Chinese are not only against sexuality, but they're also against violence. So I guess maybe this is why. I think they're not allowed to show skeletons in the game. And maybe, you know, like Thresh is considered to be a skeleton. This is really bizarre. All right, let's look at some of the others. This one is also really interesting. You got Elise. Now, Elise is her whole shtick is to lure men and drain their life energy. So, you know, like this guy is going in expecting a date, and what he's going to find is a quick death. But in the censored version, there is no more guy. It's just Elise sitting here. Very plain, very boring. Notice how the censorship makes things to be plain and boring, by the way. And another one of Thresh being censored. I legitimately do not know what they're even doing here. I mean, I guess this one has Thresh attacking a bunch of people, right? He grew in size and he's mopping up people. And yeah, they removed the people here. It's just, you know, Thresh randomly attacking. This one is absolutely bizarre. I generally like do not understand what they're doing here. I think like this one is implied that she is going to attack them, right? Like this is clearly a spy. I don't even know who she is. But yeah, she's listening in to these guys making a battle plan. So she's taking information. And in the censored version, the guys are gone. There's no more knife, and she's like just randomly playing with some Christmas decorations. Right? All of this is just making the game boring and lame. I don't want to play like League of Legends used to be this cool game where, you know, like if you look at the lore, it's badassery and, you know, magic and fights and duels, and now like they're trying to sell the same game. But at the same time, they're depicting friendliness and like I never really get that, you know. And this is like why I hate authoritarian ideologies where there's no debate, there's no discussion, and most importantly, there's no logic to it. They have the same censor for Hearthstone, which is based on World of Warcraft, right? So they want a war game. Like it's fine to sell a war game into China, just as long as you don't show violence. I mean, then what's the point? Like, why would you even try to make a game surrounding the act of war if you cannot have violence? And it's the same with League of Legends. Like, what is the purpose in order to show, kingdoms doing magical things and having war with each other if you can't show even a random creature just mopping up with an axe a couple of army dudes? Makes absolutely no sense. And by the way, like, I'm not saying like literally everything is bad. Like, okay, like you can make the argument that full leather Katarina is nice. I mean, I guess there are people that have fetishes within that area, but this is not what the developer wanted. This is what the Chinese government wanted. It's very similar to that picture with Stalin, where they just remove from the picture because it's problematic. And like this, it wouldn't even bother me if I wouldn't know that Riot talks about diversity and they talk about LGBT, LMNOP, and lecturing others how to be good, decent folk and political correctness, and then they do business with a country that is accused of harvesting organs from its Muslim Uyghur population. Just saying, like, is this like, I guess the moral of the story is that China pays its homophobia and Islamophobia tax because they have money. So if you have money, you can be homophobic and Islamophobic and all the phobias and the isms and the tisms, as long as you have cash. You can get away with it. If you don't have cash and you're just the average mortal, then you have to be lectured by Riot on how to behave.